Facebook, and yes, we are live and on YouTube. And hi, everybody. Good morning. Nice and early. And I hope you woke up this morning inspired. I'm here with a dear colleague and friend and expert, Joe Guthrie, a truly Irish man. And Joe, among other the interesting things he does in life, helps business owner achieve sustainable growth and profitability while making the business less operationally dependent on the owner. So no business operator, business owner in the truly sense. He has more than 30 years experience as a business owner and corporate executive, and he having built several businesses from startup to profitability within 1 year of operation. Just note if you agree with me, Joe, if I'm saying something that touches your heart and brain. He has studied extensively with Tony Robbins. Actually, that's where we met, and he mastered the influence skills that Tony Robbins uses to empower individuals to be their best version. He is my brother because he has studied meditation and mindfulness, and he practices it and he teaches it. And I love you for this as well. He now owns and operates two businesses with ownership stakes in two extra, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
More. And Joe coaches business executives, business owners in Ireland and abroad, and has guided several executives and owners in growing turnover and increasing profitability by 50 to 100% over a half a year to 1 year time frame. He's the man. He has a mix of skills, tools, and life experiences, and all these positions, plus the meditation thing, and plus the fact that he's a conscious man, and he's strong, and he's sweet, and he's powerful. So this position him uniquely as a coach to business owners who want more freedom while continuing to grow sustainable, profitable businesses with a purpose, I guess, right? I don't think you take anybody, just anybody, right? So, okay. So, Joe, we are in where we are in the Corona times. So what do we need to do to create a compelling future? And by the way, we're gonna, for those of you who are business owners, and this is really for you. If you work for corporations, translate, because what about if you start thinking as an entrepreneur about your experience in your corporation? So let's go also in this direction. So the floor is yours, Joe.
Okay. Well, one of the first things that I would say is that at this particular time, with so many people working from home and so many people in literally shutdown mode as we are here in Ireland, that it's a unique opportunity. But it's all about how we view the world. It's all about the lens through which we look at it. And one of the most amazing things that I learned very early on from Tony Robbins was this concept of a control model, and that we are all seeking certainty and we're seeking to control. And there are three zones in this control model. At the center is the things that I can control. The next level out is what I can control, what I can influence. And finally, there's what I can neither control nor influence.
Yes.
And what we find is that when I speak to a lot of business owners, even outside of times like this, where they're stressed and where things are not happening as they should, and profitability isn't where it should be, and growth isn't happening, that it's because they're operating in that area where they have neither control nor influence. So it's to really realize what you control and to realize what you can influence and to focus on those areas. And I know now that the only thing I control is how I respond to situations. It's the reaction that I have to it. It's the meaning that I give to it. And by controlling my own reaction, by being aware of what's going on, yes, but by not allowing what's going on to determine how I feel and where I I'm coming from, I can better influence the people around me. And the people around me include my employees, they include my customers. So it's really all about understanding that very simple model that the only thing I can control is how I'm going to respond to situations. It's the meaning that I'm going to give to it.
Right.
And I remember, just to put it in perspective, the last time we had a crisis like this was back in 2008. And I was going through the learning phase for me in the Tony Robbins world.
Yeah.
And we hit a particular situation back then in the business where our revenues were going to get hit pretty hard, pretty fast by the changes that were taking place. And I remember when I was dealing with that, being really, really stressed out. And I was constantly thinking about what's going to happen next. And oh my God, if the interest rates go any higher, or if they reduce the amount of consumer credit that's available, all those things that were outside of my control.
Yeah.
And I was really stressed. And then I realized, hang on, I've spent the last year and a half studying with this Robbins guy. Where's the benefit from this now? And I remember that little control model. And I stepped back and said, okay, I'll just stop for a minute. And it was literally a moment that changed everything. Because in that moment, I said, hang on, I can't control any of these things. What I can control is my reaction now. And by being calm. And I started to think about, okay, ask myself better questions.
Okay.
And
So stop, break your own pattern of reaction, and start calming your brainwave, because if you want to ask yourself better questions, you cannot ask yourself better questions if you are stressed out. If your brainwaves go like, you need to
slow down.
So how did you do it? Let's go practical here.
Okay, well, in that particular moment, what I did was I had a realization. Back then, I had less tools than I have now because we're always evolving and growing. The one tool that I had then was the triad. Break your state, change your pattern, change your focus, pattern of focus, pattern of physiology, pattern of language. So I remember I was in the patio at the back of my house here, and I live looking over the ocean, and I was freaking out. I was going, oh my God, I've got 60 people. How are they going to pay their mortgages? How are they going to feed their families? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I go, okay, hang on, stop. What did Tony Robbins teach you? Okay, what comes first? Physiology. So I literally went in, put on my walking gear, and I went and did a 12-kilometer walk.
Some water.
Okay. Yeah. So that basically broke my physiological pattern.
Yes.
Now, I remembered something else. Incantations. Oh, that's language. So I go, all I need is within me now. So I'm walking around going, all I need is within me now. And I'm just literally...
So hold on a second. I stop you here because some of the people have no freaking clue what we are talking about. So for those people that are not in the Tony Robbins environment, okay. So when we want to change something, how we are in a certain moment, when we want to change your state, we go first to physiology because it's the easiest we want to change. So you go like with a light speed along your ego, and you go to your physiology and you change your physiology. Drink water, move, breathe differently, right?
Yeah.
And you are mentioning incantations.
Yes.
Incantations are more than affirmations. So just go on this.
Yeah, well, incantations are all about rhythm. They're all about a cadence. It's almost like the army marching, and they have a song for marching. So
you use your physiology, you use words, and then you sing or speak with your whole body like you mean it.
Yes, okay. Absolutely. And people think you're crazy, and that's okay because you are. It's fine. So what I've done is I've changed my physiology.
Yeah.
I've changed my story. I've changed the language I'm using, and I start to focus in a different way. Now, focus is, okay, am I looking, for me, it was, am I looking at this at the end or the beginning? Because it's a completely different thing. If I look at the same set of facts and say, this is the beginning, I'm looking at it in a completely different way than I'm saying, this is the end. So I came back from that, and I remembered something really simple. Ask yourself better questions. Because questions direct focus.
Correct.
So I started to direct my focus in a different way. I started to ask questions like, okay, what else could this mean? How else might this be calling me to act? What could I do differently? What if I were, for example, to look at how I might scale this business down so it's still profitable and I can preserve part of it? How can I reduce the costs so that I can retain more people? And we began to work on a plan to do that. And over time, a really interesting thing happened. And here's the lesson. And it's a lesson that's relevant to this moment in time. Back then, we created a business that's more profitable today than it was when we had far higher sales. It's more sustainable, and it actually runs without me.
Yeah.
Um, so
So just to sum up the first thing. So first thing first, right? Like Stephen Covey says.
yes,
The triad in the world of Tony Robbins, we call this the triad because it's easier to remember. But basically, if you want to change how you feel in a moment, go first to physiology, change your physiology, so that your brain is also changing. So you can then start thinking, okay, what on the focus, what you focus on, and what is the meaning, and also the language. The questions you ask become different, become more high mileage questions, right? And so physiology, focus, and language help you change the way you show up, your state, so you can be more productive in your life, right?
yes.
Okay.
And now I want to build a layer on that because, again, why stay with the tools from 2008 when we can bring the new tools that are there in 2020 that I've learned? So another very simple thing to remember as well, while you
Yeah.
can change your state in the moment, and you
Yes.
can, and it's
Yes.
important to be able to do that, it's equally important to be able to go inwards and look at
Right.
what's triggering that state.
Yes.
And that's where you mentioned the whole concept of meditation. Okay. And there are some very simple practices that I now have that I teach people. I was blessed to be in a room when I heard a Navy SEAL commander talk about how you could use certain breathing techniques to go to a very powerful place. And what it's about is we have two nervous systems. We have a sympathetic nervous system, which is all about fight and flight. And we have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is aware of the problem, but is equally open to finding solution.
Yes.
And it's a very simple process called box breathing. And to learn to use box breathing when we're stressed, right? To learn to use Ho'oponopono when we're stressed. And we can talk about those tools later on. But the idea all the time is that we manifest from the inside out. How I feel on the inside is going to be reflected on the results that I get on the outside. Now, for example, if I'm in a very stressed state, the decisions that I'm going to be making are very different from the decisions I will make if I'm calm and centered.
Right.
If and let's just ask as an audience here, I'm sure everybody that's listening has made a decision when they were angry at some times in the past. And we know those angry decisions often don't have good outcomes. And there was a very simple statement I learned in India, and I have written it, it's on the wall over my computer here. It says, decisions made in a state of conflict never lead to wise or intelligent action. And a state of conflict is an inner state that's not calm and centered. So it became very important for me. And right now, it's very important for all of us as leaders, as business owners, to learn how to move to that calm and centered state and to have techniques to do that, right?
And show up as a role model, right? Because
yes,
how many times, Joe, and the rest of the people, you go into a room where there was a fight and you just feel it. You just feel what was there, right? So if we have an inner conflict, an inner fight, it shows up in our behavior, in our body language, in everything, in our energy. And there are more people that are more sensible in catching these signals than others. So it's very important that we show up at the best we can if we want to lead others to a more compelling future. And by the way, on the box breathing, so 4444, or you use other numbers, there is a video on my page. So I did it. So just to understand what Joe was talking, and Ho'oponopono, it's a beautiful, beautiful practice from Hawaii. We're gonna get to into it.
Yeah, we will.
It's very good.
I think maybe we'll do a little bit of that at the end, because there's a few little add-ons that I found to that are really
Wonderful.
amazing.
I
But
never go to bed without Ho'oponopono because
me
it's
neither.
like a power. Awesome.
It's how I go to sleep,
Yes.
actually. So,
Awesome.
part of this is that as leaders we have to realize something. Okay,
Yeah.
one of the qualities of a leader is the ability to influence.
Yes.
Okay, and we influence from the inner state in which we're in,
Yes.
and we create that around us. Okay, so if I think about that control model now again, at the center of the control model is what I can control. At the
Yes.
next level is what I influence.
Yeah.
But what I influence is people, and people are directly influenced by the inner state that I'm in. So I have to become really, as a conscious leader, I have to become conscious of my own inner state at all times.
Yes.
Now, that's pretty difficult to do, to be conscious all the time, because we slip in and out of that awareness. But it's important not to beat yourself up when you catch yourself having slipped into one of those states where you're not so centered and calm, and to move back to center and calm very quickly. Now, starting from a place then of centered and calm. So the most important thing about me as a leader and as a business owner is how I am inside, because how I am inside is what I'll produce on the outside. So the first thing that I do before I engage in anything is do a little check in on myself. I ask myself a very simple question: how do I feel?
Mm-hmm.
Second question: where in my body do I feel it? And the third question: where's the flow of my thoughts right now? Because I learned some amazing little statements in India from the people at the One World Academy. One says that emotion follows thought, like shadow follows the body. There is
Yes.
no emotion independent of thought. And if we're feeling stressed, either we're projecting forward, which is going to give us anxiety and fear, or we're looking backwards, which is going to give us regret and anger and all those emotions, right? So if our thoughts are in the present moment, if we're present in the moment, we're generally going to be very calm and centered, right? So it's
Right.
about to bring us present. So our presence is very important. And then you can begin to look at it. So let's go to this moment now and speak to what business owners and leaders in business and people that are in the corporate world could do. Okay. In my businesses, I've done three things. Okay. The
Yes.
first thing that I've done is, okay, we're stopped. We can't work right now. And that's the right thing. So it protects everyone's health.
Yes.
First question: looking at what we've been doing for the last year, how can we be more efficient? How can we do things more efficiently, more smoothly, uh, be more ecologically conscious in the way that we do things, serve our people better, serve our customers better? How can we do it more efficiently? Now, it's wonderful because trying to do those kind of changes in a business when it's operating is like trying to service
It's
an
very
aircraft.
difficult. Yes. Yes.
It's
Yes.
like trying to service an aircraft when it's flying. Okay,
Yes.
so it's brilliant. The fleet is grounded. We can now look at it and we can figure out how do we make this thing fly better. So, for example, at the moment, I've got my people are working remotely if they're working at all, those that can. And I've got them getting together on the phone to have a conversation about things. What are the challenges we were meeting in the last 6 months?
Did you get your coffee and tea? Because it can be also fun, right? Also
Absolutely, yeah. We're doing
virtually. Yeah.
virtual coffee.
Woo! Virtual
Uh,
coffee it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and what we're doing is we're going through everything that we do and saying, what are the glitches here? How could we do it better? And we're mapping it all out. And we say, okay, how much time is it going to take to get this done? How much time is it going to take this done? How much time is it going to take this done? What's the biggest priority, right? What will
Yes.
have the most impact? And that's where this rule, this 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle comes in, which says that 80% of your results come from
20%.
20% of your activity.
Yes.
So what we're doing is we're looking at what's the 20% of change that we could make that would have the biggest impact, and going there first. Okay, so that's systems, processes, workflows. That many times we have work practices that we designed 10 years ago and which were brilliant then, but now they're not necessary anymore. But we're
No.
still doing them, okay? And we're still doing them because
And you
we have.
never ask, why am I still doing it? Because we always done it, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Flowers are red, grass is green, and that's the way it's always been. Okay,
Yes, it is.
so it's re-examining all those things. So
Yes.
that's a massive, massive opportunity for us, because I know that by doing this, we are going to be able to do 20 to 25% more work with the same resources, and more work with the same resources equals more profit,
Right.
and more profit equals more income for the business, which means more stability, more certainty, more security. And it means that even if a situation like this were to happen in the future, we'll have more reserves.
Yeah, and in the same time, work smartly. It doesn't mean that with the same resources you do more and then you burn out your
No.
resources. This is not what we are talking about, right? You have a more intelligent way to go about your business. You lean the business, becomes more leaner.
Yes.
It becomes leaner. Yes, not
Yeah.
more leaner.
Hmm.
Okay, that's English grammar.
Yeah. So it's good. And then the second area we started to look at is how can we reach even more customers?
Okay.
So we
So
now begin to.
efficiency and then growing business, more clients. Okay,
Yeah.
number two. Okay.
And in the
How
area
you
of
do that?
more clients, we start asking questions like, well, hey, the clients are all home now. Maybe we can talk to some of them and interview them and find out,
Yeah.
what they like, what they don't like, what's great, what's not great. Okay. We can also profile them. We can actually figure out our digital marketing policy better. We can improve on it, right? We can look at how we might refine our targeting. We can think about new ideas for how to reach customers. Okay. Because at the end of the day, if customers don't know about us, they can't do business with us. So how do we build better ways of reaching our customers? And again, it's not about me. This is where the ingenuity of your people comes in. I mean, for example, my team of people who make initial contact with our customers are the people to best know, well, what do customers like? What do they not like? What do you get resistance to? What do people love? What kind of people should we be reaching out to? Where are we likely to find them? So it's really, really digging down and looking at our customer and looking at how we can reach more people that are like that. Because, to sell John Brown what John Brown buys, you must see things through John Brown's eyes.
So can you give us a couple of strategies that you use in this direction?
Well, the first thing is that, for example, the best way to reach people is to reach people where they already are. Okay. So we're all looking at online as a way of reaching people now, but it's about looking at where does the kind of person that I want to reach hang out online, and how can I get my presentation in front of them. It's also looking about what am I telling them. I'll give you an example. In our water business, we've done some digital marketing recently. It's been a new innovation. It's something that I resisted for years because I was going, no, that's not the way we do this. And then my daughter, Michelle, who runs this part of the sales team, goes, no, 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 we got to do this. And this debate went on for months. And eventually I said, I give in. And we tried it out. Okay. Now, what we found was that people weren't necessarily focusing on the things that we thought they were focusing on. So, for instance, one of the things we discovered is that there's things that consumers focus on. Okay. And one of the things now is a plastic free world. So how can I align my product with a plastic free world? Well, I can, because I'm eliminating plastic bottles by having a water filter that's in the home, as an example. When we researched it, we found that geographically people focused on different things. So in one city, it's very green. The focus is very eco. In another city, because of other factors, it's about health because they've had a water contamination problem. In another city, it's about money because the cost of bottled water relative to the income is quite high. So it's about being able to figure out the reasons why people would be attracted to your product. To sell John Brown what John Brown buys, you must see things through John Brown's eyes.
And how do you find this? Of course, you can ask them, and then what are some strategies that you use to find out what they really want? How do you know that in each city they want different things? Okay, let's chunk it up for general business, not only for the water.
Well, to chunk it up and chunk it down, it's really simple. You look for the themes first of all. So what are the general themes that people have when they look at your product? What are the points which attract people to your product? So if you're talking about let's say the coaching business, which is a different business, right? I want more profitability. That's one possibility. I want more sales. That's another possibility. Hey, you know what? I'm cash rich and time poor, so I want you to help me to get more time. That's another possibility. Okay. So what you do is you create 3 separate landing pages and different ad sets, and you use them and you monitor the results very closely. Okay, and then you find out what's working in which area, and you do more of that. So you constantly have probably three landing pages on the go, and you're looking at the weakest one and replacing it all the time. Okay. Actually, back in the old days, I've been around a while, we had a rule, and the rule is really simple. We talk about 3 things in generating business: suspects, prospects, customers. Okay. So suspects are people who might be potential customers. So we have a way to convert a suspect into a prospect.
Yes.
That's marketing. We have a way to convert a prospect into a customer. That's selling. Okay.
Yes.
So my first job is how do I identify a suspect pool? Okay. So that's called a lead generation program. Right. And we had a rule, and it was really simple. It's 5 to stay alive. You need to have 5. Now, I know you'll say it's 5 to thrive, but I'm old style. Death and destruction are more motivating.
No, I'm very flexible.
So it's 5 to stay alive. What that meant was I need to have 5 lead programs running, bringing me in the suspect pool so that I can grow my business. And I can be guaranteed if any one of them goes down, the other 4 are going to keep me supplied. And it's then continually looking at that 5, identifying the weakest one, replacing it. So it's all about doing the math. It's all about running the stats. It's all about key performance indicators, right?
Yes.
So then it's suspects into, and let's take this right now, what we could be doing. What are my suspect pool? Who is likely to want to be my customer? Okay. How could I expand the ways that I can reach those people, either digitally or are there other ways? I mean, for instance, have I looked at the concept of buying mailing lists? Because there are brokers out there that will sell you tens of thousands of profiled email addresses so that you can approach the right type of person. So how do I expand my suspect pool? Really simple. Think like, how can I expand my suspect pool? Now, how do I convert my suspects into prospects? What's my process? How can I make it better? Here's a very simple formula. To make a suspect into a prospect, it's MAN. They must have the means to pay for the product. They must have the authority to make the decision, and they must have the need for the product. Means, authority, and need. That converts. So how do I check somebody who's a suspect to see if they meet the basic criteria of means, authority, and need?
Yes.
So am I doing it now? If I am, how could I do it better? If I'm not doing it, how could I do it? Well, they're the questions I need to be asking in this moment when I'm shut down. How can I do it better? And that's exactly what I'm doing with everything that I'm doing. How do I better identify suspects? How do I better convert them into prospects? And then when we talk about selling, right?
Yes.
It's your buyer has 4 unconscious focuses, and the first illusion that I'd like to dispel is that there's anything such as a salesperson. I stopped believing that years ago. That's an illusion, right? A salesperson is a purchase enabler. We enable people to buy things, okay? Yes. And to understand that, we have to understand the process under which people buy, okay? They have 4 unconscious focuses. The first unconscious focus is first impression. So a question you could ask yourself now to improve your sales generation, your way to reach more customers, is what's the first impression my company creates? What's the first point of contact? What impression do I create? Because if I
Mhm.
make a bad first impression, it's gone.
Yes.
Okay, because I want you to think yourself. Would you buy from somebody that you didn't feel was
Oh,
legitimate
yes.
or genuine? Of course not. It's gone. The second impression is no thinking required. Is your presentation complex and complicated and have 27,000 moving parts and a gearbox, or is it really simple? You've got to give a person a no-brainer decision, right? So the decision has got to be, hey, this is really simple. It's really easy.
Clear.
I understand it. Uh, yep, I get it. And the way I was taught by a genius of a sales trainer many, many, many years ago is you got to make your presentation like you are making it to a 7-year-old.
Yes.
So keep it simple. So that's the second focus. So the first focus is first
Impression.
impression. The second focus is
Keep it simple. No,
keep it
no
simple.
thinking required. Keep it
No
simple.
thinking right. The third focus is risk aversion. Everybody is risk averse. So how do I mitigate the risk the person has by doing business with me? Do I offer a free trial? Do I have a 30-day money back policy? Uh, you know, do I have certifications? Do I have validation? Do I have all those things that give the customer comfort that they're making a decision and that there's low risk or no risk? Okay.
Yes.
And the final thing then is social proof. Who
Yes.
else is doing it? Right. So I've got to have my presentation cover those four factors. Is it doing that? And if it's not, how can I get it to do those four things for me? And if it is doing it, how can I do it even better?
Yeah.
So that's how I would say we talk about reaching more customers. Extending the reach is about getting a bigger suspect pool.
Yeah.
Converting them into prospects is about making sure that I'm not frustrating myself and my prospective customers by pitching people that don't qualify. And then finally, the selling process, how do I maximize my results from that pool of prospects?
Right, and each builds on each other, because the better you do your job in first step and second step, the easier the selling process becomes. And I see selling in a way also as a coaching process, because in the end, it's a two-way process, and you want to coach the client to the best, to see that is the best product for him or her, right?
Yes.
Because if you do that, and if your product is not the best, I mean, sorry, we are conscious entrepreneurs. We are not like the sleazy car sellers that buy so they get the buyer remorse. This is not what it's all about, doing business in 2020 in the way we do business, right?
That's
So
right. Yeah.
you want to coach them to make sure that this is the best match. Your product or service is the best match for them.
Absolutely. It's definitely, as I said, the illusion of selling is an illusion. We
Yes,
don't sell. We enable people to buy. That's
right,
that's how it
right.
is. People, we don't decide. They decide.
So
And if
yeah, sorry.
so they decide based on certain criteria, which we have chunked up to four chunks. First impressions, no
No thinking,
brainer,
yeah, risk aversion
risk aversion,
and social proof.
and social proof.
Yeah, yeah. And in your business, how often, or let's say, how often would you advise business owners to look at the marketing and the sales processes and
Yeah.
streamline them?
Well, I'll explain it, but I'm going to use Tony Robbins. How often does your wife need attention?
All
A,
the time.
all the time, and that's a great question, Catalina, because although the aircraft is grounded now and we can do major maintenance, we have to be doing maintenance in this area all the time because the market is dynamic and it's changing all the time. And that's where this concept of KPIs comes in. I need a measurement process to see how effective I am in each area. So, for example, I know my suspect pool, and I look at my suspect pool and I look at the conversion rate. So, how
Yes.
many suspects convert into prospects? If that drops below a certain level, I've got to
Yeah.
look at the criteria for getting people into the suspect pool. If I go and I've got my prospects and my sales rate is not converting, I've got to know what the variables are. And
Yes.
the variables are the quality of the presentation,
Yeah.
the attitude of the people. So let's go to a very simple acronym again. It's not the way Stephen Covey uses it. but it's a different version. SAW. Okay,
Yes.
in any business, in any enterprise in life, in any sport, in any coaching, in being an athlete, there are three things that you need. You need S, skill. You need the skills to do the job. Okay, can do. You need the attitude, the mindset, A, right? And W, you need work rate. Okay, so all of my KPIs that we use are based around those three things: skills, attitude, and work rate.
And work.
Work rate.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so skills, attitude, work rate. That's the key to success in anything. If you've got the right skills, if you've got the right attitude or mindset, and if you've got the right work rate, you'll be successful. Okay, so one of the things you could do now is sit down and really look at this. So a very simple way to do this: I did an exercise with a lady yesterday whose objective was to build a 10,000 recurring revenue stream within 10 years monthly. So she wants a 10,000 a month recurring revenue stream. And she said to me, I've had 5 or 6 people work with me on this. And every time I get to the same point, I come up with the product, I come up with the concept, I get the beta testing done, and then it falls apart. And I go, okay, so what do you want to achieve in a year?
Yeah.
And she goes, I don't know. Well, in 5 years, where do you want to be? It seems the further out you go, the easier to see it is what you want. So we identified 5 years, we identified 1 year, and we then said, okay, how do you get from where you are to where you want to be? 3 mandates of leadership: see things as they are, see things as you would have them be, close the gap. It's a
Yes.
different way of expressing it, but it's the same
Right.
mandates. Okay.
Yes.
So I go, okay, right. You want to be there in a year. What do you need to do now? And we started to do the maths. And what we figured out was she needed to get 2,000 suspects, to convert them into 500 prospects, to convert them into 250 customers.
Yes.
Now she said, oh my God, that's so easy. Nobody ever did that before.
Yeah.
Because people would start at a certain point, but they would never go right back to the end of the funnel. You have to understand suspects, prospects, customers.
Yes.
So the application of this is really
So
So know your numbers.
yes. Yes. Correct. And one of the things, I see also my clients as well. You need to keep your eyes on the ball. You need to keep your eyes on the outcome, because I say, oh, I have so many things to do in a day. And when I go through them and I say, why do you do that? If they are not related to the outcome, if they are not related to the direction where you want to go, why do you do them? And it's like this is an unconscious process that runs, is in charge of people's life. And instead of thinking in terms of outcomes and directions where you want to go, they think in terms of, oh, I have a big list of things to do. And this impacts a lot the productivity, the effectiveness, and the health of many people, because they keep running. They have more monkeys when they leave the office than when they got to the
Yeah.
office, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where things like having KPIs in business
Right.
are really important, because what KPIs are focused on, they're
Yeah.
focused on the outcome. If I do this,
then I do this,
Yes.
then I do this in this volume, that's the result.
Yes.
Whereas if you're just doing tasks
Yes.
mindlessly, you're a busy fool.
Yes.
So it's about having a way of deciding what the really important outcomes are.
You got mute. You mute yourself. Can you you muted yourself on Facebook?
Can you hear me now?
No, on Facebook.
Okay, just a moment.
No.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Hello?
Yeah.
No, I hear you on Instagram on my phone, but I can't hear you on Facebook, and I see that you are muted. Can you talk?
Can you hear me speak?
Unmute. There we go.
Yeah, now I hear you. Yes, but
I was talking with my hands. I was talking with my hands.
it made you even more mysterious. Okay, back to business.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what I'm saying really is that if we look at the whole issue of what you just spoke about, which is being really busy and it being how important it is that we're focused on the outcomes, I
Yeah.
agree. And one good thing to do is, I know that everybody in my team knows their outcome and they're clear on their outcome and it's measured, and measurement is important. Okay. But one of the biggest things, and we've talked a lot about processes and measurement and all those things, and they're all critical and they're all important, right? And you need to have a dashboard that shows you exactly what's going on in your business at a glance, so you can focus in on the area that needs to be focused in on. But here's the key thing: being is more important than doing.
Yes.
It's the state of being that your people are in that's going to have a huge impact. And in Tony Robbins, I remember going back about maybe 5-6 years ago now, we had a directive at an event that we should give our feedback to each other from a place of how the person was being rather than what they were doing.
Yes.
I don't know if you recall that.
Yeah.
I took that back, and I think it's like 6 years ago now. I took it back to my business and I implemented it. And I called a meeting of the supervisors in our call center. And I said, guys, from here on in, I want you to focus on how the person is being rather than what they're doing.
Yes.
And when you give feedback, I want you to first understand who they're being on the inside and move them towards who they need to be rather than what they're doing. What they're doing is as a consequence of who they're being.
Yeah. And
the impact of that was amazing.
yes.
Our productivity went up by somewhere between 20, I can't remember exactly that, but somewhere between 25 and 33%. Productivity.
Yes.
By just one tiny shift, focusing on being, not doing. And that proves to me.
Can you give an example of this? And till you think about it, just hi, James and Virginia and James, and the other James, the Irish James, Veronique. Thank you for being here with us. Yes.
Okay, very simple example. We had a girl working for us who was really struggling, and I knew from meeting her around the office she's a good person. She was a nice person, right? But she was really, really struggling, and we were always in supervising her, telling her what to do. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Try this, try this, try this, try this. So it was working a little bit, but it wasn't getting great results. And we have two metrics that we use. One is called MPS, minimum performance standard, and the other one is target. And to remain part of the team, you have to stay between the minimum performance. You have to at least do minimum performance. And she was really struggling with minimum performance. Okay, so the conversation started to go around being, not doing. And what we discovered was she was in a state of fear, right? She was anxious all the time because she was uncomfortable being on the phone with people.
Yes.
So it wasn't a lack of knowledge in terms of she knew what to say. It was the place from which she was saying it. And the customer, it's not the words that you say, it's the music that you play, right? Mm-hmm. We teach it another way, and we say 92% of communication is nonverbal.
Yes.
Okay. So her nonverbal communication was fear. She was speaking from a place of fear. And then using some crazy techniques that we learned from a guy who's like 6'8" tall, we started to get rid of those fears. That girl's performance turned around until she became actually one of the top performers in the organization.
Yeah.
So
here's the thing: many people, judge on or assess other people based on the behaviors and the interventions they make. It's at the behavior level.
Yes.
And this works many times, but if you in a situation like this where the person is operating in a fight, flight, or freeze response, like in a fear, right? her brain operates from a from midbrain, let's put it this way. You don't have the cognitive functions in charge, so you have the fear part of the brain, the emotional, the amygdala, that is in charge, and it's not gonna get the best out of it. So that's why I'm talking about developing ourselves as business owners and helping people perform by being curious and having the skills to get people to the problem and solve the problem so they can relax and connect to their strengths. One of the things that I do personally is, and I say these are my superpowers, I work a lot with concepts from positive psychology as well, the character strengths and the virtues. And when you find out what your, you know, we all have, if it's science-based, 24 character strengths, and we have all have our signature strengths, our core strengths. And the more you get in touch with them, the better you show up in life and the more satisfied and happy and less depressed or blue you are in life. So anyway, point is you pass behavior, you go deeper into the being, into identity of people, right? And make interventions as well there and relax them as well.
Yes.
Help them
Well,
relax.
it's interesting because that if we go on a little spiritual journey here for a moment, there's a great
Fire
metaphor
with
for
me,
how
my
there's a great metaphor for how we manifest in life, and it's based on the human heart.
friend.
And
Yes.
what the human heart does, if you think about it, it pumps blood all around your body, which brings life-giving oxygen to every cell in your body. It puts in effort to serve,
Yes.
and then it relaxes to receive. So we have to really get that concept of serving and relax and receive. Serve, relax, and receive. And it goes into that whole concept of just allowing. Okay. I discovered something 20 years ago, 25 years ago, that made a huge difference to me. I learned how to get out of my own way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and along the way, over the years, I've lost sight of that from time to time. And whenever I've lost sight of it, all I've needed to do is to take a few moments and reflect and remind myself. Okay, because the truth is that if we're sat here today and we're in a situation which, depending on how you look at it, is either an unprecedented disaster or an unprecedented opportunity.
Yes.
To me, it's an unprecedented opportunity.
Correct.
Because we're all blessed, or most of us that are on this call are blessed to live in Western democracies where there is a consciousness in leadership that hasn't been before, where people are being enabled to live and to have the resources they need to live while also protecting the health of our society and taking care of each other. And there's beautiful things happening. I mean, I see here something that I have felt for a long time was missing. I mean, in Ireland, we're cocooning our older people. What a wonderful expression. We're encouraging them to stay safe and stay at home. And I felt in the one of the greatest gifts I've had in my life over the years was to learn from older people. I spent a lot of time with people that were running businesses for 50 and 60 years. And many of the things that I shared with you this morning, things like suspects, prospect customers, things like, having KPIs and what to measure, how to measure it, 5 to stay alive. All of those things came from working with people that were in their 70s and 80s who had run businesses for 50 years successfully. And because they were a little politically incorrect, or because they didn't have Harvard business degrees or all these fancy things, right, their wisdom was being disregarded. And I think now when I see that we're cocooning our older people, we're beginning to respect that wisdom again. And we're
Yes.
beginning to see that, people that live for 60, 70, 80, 100 years on this planet have wisdom. They have knowledge, and that we can learn from that. And it's a wonderful thing that's happening. So really what I would say is that this is an unprecedented opportunity. And another piece of it is we can take time to develop new products as well.
Yes.
You
That's
know,
what I wanted to get into actually with you.
yeah,
The opportunity thing and
yeah,
then developing products.
yeah.
So it's
I
innovation.
mean, developing products, it's amazing. The last 3 days, I've had a coaching call each day, and I've had people who, on each of those calls, I've had more than three, but I've had three specific calls I'm looking at, one each day, where the person's looking at what they're doing at the moment and wondering, how can I, um, you know, how can I develop a new income? How can I not be in this situation in the future? And what people really need to do first, I believe, is to look on what they have and what gifts they have. You said it, we all have strengths, we all have gifts. Um, I'm going to say I was speaking to one lady, and she is an amazing woman. And what she had done last year, she began she wanted to have to move from corporate to be able to spend more time with her kids. Okay, and she started a business, and we did a little bit of coaching around it, and she developed a business, and she was, created a small micro business that was very successful. Okay, using the skills that she had built up in corporate life. And I was talking to her about 2 weeks ago, and she was feeling really overwhelmed because her whole life now was based out of her house. She had her corporate job, she had her kids to take care of, she had to do some homeschooling, she had to take care of her husband, be concerned about him who was still out working, lots of stuff going on. And we kind of dealt with that by learning how to go back into the inner place. And then we started to talk about, moving that project forward. And this lady has amazing skills in the area of supply chain management and also in systems improvement. And we talked about it for a while, and I asked her, I said, could small businesses benefit from that knowledge? And yeah, they could. They mightn't have the time or the resources to go into it at the level they would need to. But I'm going to go, does it have to be perfect, or could it just be good? Could you do it so that I can do this and it will make things better? Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. So what are the 6 big things that they could do? What are the 6 number one things you would recommend for a small business to do? And we talked about them for a while. She's now gone away and she's developing 6 modules to teach people how to create and operate a lean business that she
Yes.
can teach online. So she's creating an evergreen webinar, and she will create something that will generate income for her and create it into the future using what she already knows. Okay. And putting it into a form where others can learn from it. And the truth of it is that change is something that we can all make. I see my friend Rui Rodriguez from Portugal has joined us, and say hi, hi Rui. So basically, what I'm saying is every single one of us has unique talents and skills that can benefit others. Okay. Now, whether we teach it as just a gift to the universe and to humanity and to the world, or whether we can shape it into something that can serve business and become a service to business in the future and will generate income from us, that doesn't really matter. Right now, we have an opportunity to take that gift that we have and to convert it into something practical that can serve others. Because what I've learned in life is, to get what I want from life, I need to help enough other people to get what they want.
This is the need to contribute beyond yourself. And when you do that, it just helps us flourish, right?
Yes.
And again, it is progress, it is not perfection. So let's focus on making progress, because this makes us happy. Perfection freezes us. And one more thing, we get, all these jokes that are coming around, because now we are home, and we connect each other more online or via WhatsApp. And I get so many jokes. And I'm thinking, oh my God, these people are awesome. They are so creative. They are just amazing. Because when we have restrictions in life, something happens in our system, in our brain. We kick in, we become more creative than if we don't have boundaries. There's actually the whole thing, what's happening now, it is an invitation for our creativity to blossom. It is an invitation for us to use our voices, to use our skills and our wisdom and knowledge, and contribute it to the world. And those who need it will find you. This is like you find your husband, your partner, right? There is a lot of people outside, and somehow you find your love. You find that person that needs to be with you. The same is with business. Just connect with your creativity, connect with your strengths and your talents, and use your voice to bring your wisdom into the world. And those who need it will connect with you, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I think we're gonna, if you would like to continue our conversation in the future and would look also at systems and we look at value supplies and value chain, we can look at much more in another day. So you were saying about Ho'oponopono,
Yeah.
which is it is our daily pill as well. We go to bed after we do the Ho'oponopono. So let's do it together, because it's also for all these people that are sick, for all these people that died, and for all of us that are here. Let's do this Ho'oponopono. Would you
Yeah, but
like
let's do a little. Let's put a little couple of layers on it. Okay.
you do
The
it your
first
way?
the first layer I will put on it is this. When I studied it, and the first thing I learned that was amazing is from Hawaii. Okay. Ha, breath, Y, water, I, the divine.
Yes.
Okay, so ha, breathing, is a really simple form of breathing, but it's box breathing, which fascinated me, because we had the guys from the Navy SEALs teaching box breathing, and suddenly here's Ho'oponopono, and it's got its own version. In Ho'oponopono, box breath is inhale for a count of 7, hold for a count of 7, exhale for the count of 7, hold empty for the count of 7, 7 times.
Yes.
Okay.
It
Now
might be a bit difficult
we won't do that now. We won't do it now, but it's just so you can use that before you go to bed at night, and when you wake up in the morning, do
I
the
do
box breathing.
is the magic number as
Yeah.
well.
And the
Yes.
next one then is it's the 4 phrases. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Now, in the one version of it, you're speaking it to others, but actually you're speaking it to yourself, because in Ho'oponopono, I'm responsible for everything that's in my world. Once I'm aware of it, I'm responsible for it. So you're speaking to your inner self, really. So if we want to do it, let's do it for a couple of minutes, or maybe just a minute even, to focus on all of that's going on around us now, and that it will pass, and
It
we'll
will
be well.
pass. And shall
Okay.
we you guide it, you go it, I'll do it in another time. So you go first.
Okay. So just taking a deep breath in now and closing your eyes and focusing for a moment on the inner self, on how you feel, and just speaking to that inner version of yourself. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And now focusing on your family, on those around you, those that are dear to you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And now seeing that expanding out into your community around you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And now expanding it out to the country that you live in, wherever that is. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And finally, expanding it out beyond that to the entire world. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And now just sending that positive healing energy to wherever it's needed in the world. And take a deep breath and just gently open your eyes when you're ready.
And I think this is the best way to go and make magic in our life. And until next time, thank you so much, Joe. It's been a pleasure. Much love and all the best. Till next
Bye
time.
bye. Bye.